Hi, my name is Maddie, and welcome to my bookshelf. So this is a brand new filming setup. I think this is kind of what I've settled on for now, as opposed to sitting in front of my big bookshelves in my spare bedroom. Let's get started, shall we? Okay, so when I originally planned this video, I was thinking about getting kind of dressed up and looking kind of nice and, sitting and having this kind of really structured, really, I don't know, kind of put together, I guess, video, or maybe more polished than I think this is really going to come out. But then I sat down and I really thought about it, and I was like, this video is about burnout. This video is about me not really knowing what I'm doing, me being tired and trying to survive, and about showing up with everything that I have to give and not pushing myself to do more or be more than I really am or feel like I can be right now. It's about showing up exactly as I am and doing the best that I can with that, and not being mad at myself for not being able to do more, or not shaming myself for not being able to look as nice or as clean or as, I don't know, sleek or whatever as all the other Instagram girlies and YouTube people might seem, but rather just showing up and being here and doing the thing, because anything is better than nothing, right? This stuff is cringy to me, guys. This stuff is cringy to me. It's all the internalized ableism and okay, so in today's video, we are going to be talking about burnout, particularly my experiences with burnout, how I've been feeling, kind of what my behavior has been what's been going on, and also what led me to that point, what caused my burnout and stuff like this. The reason why I'm sharing this is because while I was in the trenches and as I was kind of falling deeper and deeper into what inevitably led me to this huge burnout episode that I'm still currently trying to heal and live and survive through, I had kind of no idea that I was on this, not no idea, I had some concept. I knew I wasn't treating myself well, but I didn't realize the extent to which I was behaving in a way in which I was not okay with, and that was not healthy for me, and that was not good for me. And I wish I would have had some examples of what burnout looked like, as in the behaviors that you exhibit and the feelings that you feel, so that I would have known much earlier that I was on this great path to exhaustion. I just think it would have been a really helpful tool for me. And not that I think that this video is going to end up being some kind of great tool for everybody to use who might be experiencing burnout, because I'm not a professional, I'm not a medical professional, I'm just a girl in her house who read books, and that's really it. And I just have my one singular lived experience. So first, like I said, I'm going to talk about what led me to burnout, and then some feelings and some behaviors I was exhibiting. And then afterwards, I'm going to talk about a list of books that I think is going to help me kind of heal through this time in my life, because I am definitely by no means on the other side of this. I am still what feels like some days at the very beginning of my journey. So to start, I think it's kind of, truthfully, guys, I don't know where to start. I think that burnout isn't something that you can look back and point on and be this is the moment when all of the things that caused me to burn out started. No, not at all. I don't know. It slowly crept up on me. There are a couple of things that are like that stand out to me in the times when I think about when I was really struggling, and when it really started becoming abundantly clear that I was struggling. So I'm just going to talk about those couple of things. The main thing that sticks out to me about my particular experience is that I was having a lot of health issues. And I think that's when I really started to like understand, like, oh my God, girl, your body is failing because you're pushing yourself so hard. I think by the time in which I had started experiencing these like major health issues, I was already probably a third of the way into a full-blown like burnout episode. About a year ago, a little under a year ago, I started experiencing some pretty bad back pain. It started out just kind of like feeling like I slept funny and feeling like I just wasn't stretching enough. My posture was poor. I have a shitty mattress, all those kind of things. And then it turns out that it wasn't going away. I sort of had planned on just like ignoring it, taking Tylenol, stretching, that kind of thing. And then 2 to 3 months down the line, I was going to work and I was in so much pain that I was taking like way more pain medication than I should have. I was sleeping with a heating pad. I was wearing those like menthol patches on my back just to get through my work day. I was in pretty much constant pain. It was really bad. And finally, one day I went to work, and by the end of my shift, I could not really walk on my own. Somebody had to walk me out to my car. The drive home was excruciating. My fiance found me on the couch a little bit later, and he had to carry me out to the car. We had to go to the ER. It was pretty bad. It was very scary. I couldn't walk for a couple of days. Wow, I've told this story 1,000 times. I cannot believe I'm crying. I don't want to cry right now. I couldn't walk on my own for a couple of days. I went through a series of doctors and a series of, people telling me it's just a muscle strain, there are acute muscle spasms, you've stretched a tendon, Finally, I went to a chiropractor, and it turns out that my pelvic bone is tilted. It tilts a little bit towards the right, and so like the side of my pelvic bone kind of gently scrapes against my hip socket, as my chiropractor puts it, and it causes a lot of pain in my hips and my back. It's the kind of thing that you can fix, but has the chance of coming back, and that requires kind of constant maintenance in order to stay in the right place. So now I deal with acute to very serious back pain every day. I finally got a diagnosis and figured out what was going on in, February of last year. And I didn't stop working my 40-hour-a-week job where I was standing on my feet for 8 hours a day until September. I pushed myself so hard and put myself through so much pain. And looking back, I can't even remember what for. Why I so desperately was scared to quit my job and scared to take the time that I needed and scared to get the rest that I needed. I don't know why I didn't leave so much earlier. I don't know why not being able to walk wasn't a wake-up call. So yeah, I had some health problems. That's just one. I also deal with chronic migraines. I don't know where they come from. I don't know what's going on, but I have a headache that may stay a headache, may transform into a migraine almost every night or every day. I get migraines themselves anywhere from 1 to 2 to 3 times a week. I don't know where they come from. I don't know what's going on. I've got plenty of doctor's appointments and stuff coming up to kind of handle that and figure that out. So that's fun. And then just mental health issues in general. I have bipolar 1 disorder and obsessive compulsive disorder. I was diagnosed 2 years ago. There's something that I have, learned to live with, but it requires a lot of maintenance and a lot of constant upkeep and care. And working at this job, all of those things slowly started disintegrating. All of the routines that I had, all of the things that I was caring about, all of it just started disintegrating. And somehow my whole life became my job and working and doing good at this job and getting this 9 to 5 and working full time and having this career beginning. And my health just absolutely tanked because of it. Speaking of work, that is the second thing that caused me quite a bit of burnout. My job was working at my local library, which doesn't sound bad, right? It's like this cute little place with books in it, with this, everybody pictures this little old lady who's your librarian who's telling you to shush. But in reality, it's not really like that. Libraries are one of the last places that people can come into to just exist. They don't have to pay for anything. They don't have to do anything to be there. They can just walk in. And also the library is one of the last places where you can really get a lot of free services. So we offered things like language learning classes, things like fax machines, things like copiers, things like printers, computers, just meeting spaces for people. We offered so many things. And so because of that, the library every single day was full of all different types of people. And it was all just the public. There was no screening who was coming in. There was no certain type of clientele, whatever that means. There was just people coming in. And a lot of the times you were seeing people at their very worst, when they had just lost their house or needing to copy a death certificate of a loved one, having to call lawyers for divorces, or oh God, all these terrible things that are just a part of life, but all piled up together all the time. And being the one there to help them through this, you end up being sort of a therapist for most of it. People just start spilling stuff to you, especially when you're nice to them and they're in a place where they need kindness, and you just end up hearing these really awful stories. And seeing people break down or lose their homes, seeing people in these moments of extreme need, and knowing that if we as a society were just a little nicer to each other, if our government was just a little more conducive to helping people, so much of their pain just would be taken away. If we just were a little nicer, a little more caring, if we just gave a little more. And so you end up becoming that person, right? What they really need is a government and a society that is built in a way that cares for people and cares for each other. But because you can't provide that, what you end up doing is providing so much of yourself. Everything you possibly can in that moment, you're giving to them. And that's fine when you're only seeing 1 or 2 people a day and you're only doing that for 1 or 2 people a day. But in the course of an 8-hour shift, you're seeing 10 to 15 to sometimes 30 to 40 people going through these things in one day. And it takes so much out of you. Seeing that much injustice all the time, especially as a person who experiences their own forms of oppression, experiences their own forms of discrimination. The company that I worked for, it's a nonprofit, but I'm calling them a company because they are a company. They behave like one. The company that I work for was not kind to us. We were chronically understaffed. Even when we were full staffed, we were chronically understaffed. We were seeing hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people a day, and sometimes there would only be 3 or 4 people to run the entire building. And so it was a lot. I was giving a lot of myself, so much of myself. And I thought I was doing it for the greater good. And I think, there is good there, but how much of yourself do you give before you have absolutely nothing left? And then what happens when you keep giving even then? I'm not gonna lie, guys, I didn't think I would cry during this video. Yeah, so work wasn't the best. I ended up having to quit, having to leave. And it was the best decision I ever made. It was the best decision that I ever made. I thought I would kind of explain like what burnout felt like to me both before and after I quit my job. Okay, so the biggest one for me, and I think this is honestly the only symptom of burnout that like I really knew, and it's the one that gave me a hint into what was going on, but was exhaustion, pure just exhaustion. I was always tired. It didn't matter what I was doing, how much I had slept the night before, if I had taken a nap, if I had drank coffee or caffeine or anything. I was always tired. I would wake up in the morning from having slept for like 8 to 10 hours and still feeling like I could sleep for another 18. I would do 2 to 3 hours of work and feel like I would need a 6-hour nap. Like, I was always tired. I would come home immediately after work and sometimes I would just pass out on my couch. Like, I was just always exhausted. I just never ever felt like I had rested enough. I never felt like I had rested at all. I was just sleeping to provide my body with a little bit of a reprieve, but I never felt rested. The second thing was that I was so incredibly emotionally sensitive. Like, I felt like a live wire, basically, constantly. I was afraid of people being mean to me. I worked in customer service, so people were being mean to me quite often. But I was afraid constantly of people being mean to me. I developed this really weird fear of driving. Like, I was very nervous that suddenly I would get into a car accident almost out of nowhere. I don't know where that came from. I don't know like what part of my brain conjured that up, but I was like scared all the time and like sensitive all the time, and like I still can't watch the news, but like I couldn't watch the news. I wasn't going on social media. I didn't want to hear about any of those things because I felt raw and open and fragile, and like if anything happened, even the smallest, tiniest thing, I completely lost it. Completely lost it. And the last thing that I felt the most while I was still working was just this constant, like, cognitive overwhelm. Like, my brain just felt, like, stuffed full of things. Like, I felt like I couldn't possibly hear one more thing, or I couldn't possibly take in one more story, or I couldn't possibly make one more decision. Like, I always felt right on the precipice of losing my shit because people were asking me stuff and asking me for things and asking me to make decisions constantly. And so I just always felt like somebody needed me. I always felt like I had somewhere to be. I always felt like I was missing something. I always felt like anxious like that, but also at the same time, all of that was so overwhelming that I felt like I could never move forward. I could never make a decision. I could never go on to the next step because I was so overwhelmed that I was stuck in like this weird like freeze response. It was bad. Sometimes I would come home after work and I wouldn't even be able to pick like what to make for dinner, or like what clothes to change into after work, or like where I wanted to sit to watch TV. Like, every little decision, no matter how small, felt insurmountable, and it felt like I was gonna fuck it up. I don't know how I lived like this. Burnout after work, how that felt. Okay, so burnout after work was a little bit similar, but also a little bit different. The things that were the exact same was the exhaustion. The first week that I was out of work, I slept anywhere from 10 to 14 hours a day. I was just like exhausted. And it wasn't even like I was doing it on purpose. Like I wasn't just staying in bed. Like I would accidentally fall asleep. Like I'd be reading, or I would be like actively watching something. Or one time I fell asleep while I was painting. Like I like was just so tired all the time that I was just sleeping. That really only lasted about the first week. Now I feel like I'm finally back to like a regular amount of being able to be awake in the days, and I've been out of work for about a month and a half now. And the other thing that stayed that I'm still working on is feeling raw and fragile. I feel like the tiniest mean comment, inconvenience, wrongdoing, mistake, failure, I'm so sensitive. I feel like the tiniest of any of those things just makes me cry. It just makes me cry all the time. I've never cried so much in my life as I have in these month and a half. Like, I was playing this video game one time where you build this village and a tornado came through and killed my village, and like 4 of my people died, and I sobbed for like an hour and a half, and like I really genuinely like felt the death of these people as if they were real like real people in the real life instead of a video game character. So like everything, it doesn't even matter like how big or small it is in the grand scheme of life, everything made me cry. All of it. The new thing that developed after I left my job was this like overwhelming sense of like, what if I let somebody down? Like, what if I accidentally fuck up? What if I let somebody down? Like, not in regards to big things. Like, I would accidentally burn dinner and like cry because I thought that my husband was gonna be so mad at me that he would like want to leave me, or like, I don't know. It's like this constant fear of like simultaneously not feeling enough, like not feeling like I am enough, but also like somehow in my head, I don't know, I've already failed at having a career, so I can't fail anymore. Like, I can't give myself any grace. Like, I've already taken up the allotted amount of grace that I have from the people around me, and if I keep fucking up, they're just gonna get tired of me. God, I have trauma. I have to unpack this. And so I feel like, looking back on it, I just feel like my nervous system was kind of stuck in this like half flight, half freeze, half fawn state where like I simultaneously always wanted to run away from all of my problems, but felt incapable of making any decisions, and also incredibly terrified of fucking up once I did make the decision. And I'm still dealing with that. It's coming and it's going. You know, some days are better than others. And for the most part, we're doing okay now, I guess. Yeah, that's my experience with burnout. I know that a lot of that was just me rambling, and I really hope that I'm going to be able to make something of this so that this can like be useful and helpful to you guys. Okay, so now that I've cried and bared my soul for you guys, which I don't know what I thought was going to happen, if not exactly that, when I planned this video, but I'm sorry if people crying on the internet makes you feel weird and awkward. It also makes me feel weird and awkward, and I sort of wish that I hadn't cried, but also it is proof that I am feeling incredibly sensitive right now, and thinking about the past, and especially that period of my life, is obviously difficult for me. I didn't know that either. So now we're on to the fun bit of the video. Now we're on to the bit about the books, guys. This is why we're all here, right? So I have 8 books here. And while I was selecting these books, the main thing that I was looking for was books that were not like super self-care-y, like, if that makes sense. And what I mean by self-care is like self-care, like TM, like Instagram self-care, where like, you know, you meditate for 5 minutes and you wash your face every night and you, I don't know, do a face mask, that kind of thing. While that can be super helpful for some people, and I think it's good for like a day-to-day sort of maintenance, and it's good for kind of relaxation. It's good for relaxation and things like that. And it can really help you. I do think that sort of stuff only goes so far. And when you deal with things like chronic pain or severe trauma or things like that, you need a little bit more than a face mask and a nice bath. While that helps, that's more like the cherry on the top of the cake than it is like the actual substance of the cake itself. So I tried to pick some books that would really give me that substance that I was looking for. So let's start with the two that I did not actually pick for myself. So part of my healing has been going back to therapy. Therapy was something I did for years. I fell off of it whenever I got really busy, and now I'm back. And the first thing that my therapist did was recommend me 2 books because she knows me very well. So the first one is Untamed by Glennon Doyle, and the second one is Big Magic. Yeah, Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. So when she recommended these 2, I will not lie to you, I cringed from both of them. I remember when Untamed was absolutely massive, like when it first came out, and I don't think that the book itself was cringy, but I remember seeing this everywhere, and it ended up kind of falling into that like Instagram self-care TM type of field of self-care. I think because it has like this kind of pretty cover, and it ended up being really easy to Instagram this. But this is a woman's memoir about her realizing, I think, that she's a lesbian, and just kind of uprooting her whole life and changing her whole life and deciding to finally live in her truth. And this one, I also cringed when she gave me this because I remember Eat, Pray, Love. I remember the Eat, Pray, Love era of life, and my mother is a white Christian woman, and so she ate Eat, Pray, Love up. And I remember thinking at the time, like, oh, ew, this is rife with privilege and white feminism. And so I was a bit nervous to pick this up. But my therapist reassured me that these 2 books completely changed the way that she thought about her own sense of self from Untamed, and her own sense of creativity and what it looks like for her to really put art and such out into the world. And my big thing right now is finally giving myself an opportunity to be and feel and do creative things and creativity, and just letting myself really truly be an artist for the first time, and really be somebody who makes things and puts things out into the world, because I've always been sort of peripherally on that edge, and I'm now in a place where that I know in my heart that is the way that I want to make my life go. I don't want art to be a sideline thing in my life anymore. Being creative, being an artist, being artistic, that is what nourishes me in the very core of my soul. And so I want to give time and space and love and energy to that. And she told me that these would help. So fingers crossed, I guess. The next one, 4,000 Weeks by Oliver Burkeman. So I have seen this one kind of floating around the internet for the past, year or so, probably since it came out. And I was like, absolutely not, because of the like byline or the subtitle. Because of the subtitle, I was like, no, I don't want this. It's because it's called Time Management for Mortals. And I just felt like it had the chance and opportunity to turn from being like helpful and like empathetic and kind and insightful to like a productivity self-help book, which I was not looking for productivity stuff at all in this. That's not why I'm here. I'm not here to churn out more work. I'm here to feel good and drink tea and love who I love. But I recently watched a video by Newly Nova, and she recommended this book and said that it was very self-help without feeling self-helpy and without being super productivity focused. So I'm giving it a go. I have no idea what it's about, but I trust her recommendation pretty much blind. So, okay, we ready? So, Brené Brown, we all knew she was coming. The queen of letting go of your shame. Brené Brown has wiggled her way into my life a lot somehow through like social media and I don't know, maybe the circles that I run in, the places on the internet I hang out are just big into Brené Brown. I don't really know. I read a collection of essays and stuff, like an anthology that she had edited with another person who I can't think of right now. I'll put the cover on the screen. And it was just this really kind, insightful collection of essays. But there was this introduction in the beginning where she was talking about how she really wants people to know that she like acknowledges her whiteness and like what that means in the face of like her being a self-help author. And so I was like, you know what? She sounds insightful. She sounds like she's there. This is one of her earlier ones, I think, so maybe it won't have that same tone. Maybe she hadn't learned that lesson yet. I don't know. But I wanted to start with this one because if it's not abhorrently obvious, I am a gifted burnout kid. I fall like so just beautifully into that category. And so I struggle. Ooh, that was my dryer. Could you hear it? Sorry. I struggle very much with perfectionism, and I am quite often too afraid to put something out into the world or to do something if I know I'm going to fail, or if I think I'm going to fail, or if I think that for some reason it might be imperfect. And I want to get over that. I don't want to have to deal with that for the rest of my life. It holds me back quite a lot, and I know it does. But I need some concrete steps to like make it happen, and this book supposedly has concrete goalposts in it that you can follow. So fingers crossed. I need like a workbook, honestly, is what I need. Okay. The Body Keeps the Score. So this one's pretty popular. I don't think that this will be the first time that you heard of this book, but if for some reason it is, this is just a book about how your body holds in a lot of the trauma and the stress and the kind of emotional turmoil that you go through in your life. It is stored somewhere in your body. Your body is not free from that interaction, even though it is an emotional and kind of thought-heavy thing. This book is the book that I think I'm scared the most for, because I feel a lot of trauma still in my body, but also I feel a lot of trauma surrounding my experiences with my body. Kind of with my body maybe failing me, with me not taking care of it in the proper ways that I should, and feeling guilty or remorseful for that. And so I don't know, I'm nervous. Something about this book just makes me, looking at the cover just tells me that I'm going to spend a lot of time crying. And I don't know how ready I am for that. Probably not at all. The next book is Wintering by Catherine May. I don't know how like well-known or not well-known this book is. I've had this book for over 3 years maybe. It's a book about, so the subtitle is called The Power of Rest and Retreat in Difficult Times. And it's like part memoir, part like pulling quotes and like experiences and lessons from like mythology, philosophers, literature, and also her own story of kind of experiencing burnout at her job and having to leave her job and having to still like take care of and kind of maintain her family at the same time when she really just needed a break. And I finally picked this up because that is almost exactly identical to how I am feeling right now. So obviously I hit burnout because of my job, identical to Miss Catherine, and I do still have, not to the same extent as she does because she has children, but I do still have people in my life that are depending on me. I have a household to run. Sometimes I just be sitting here like, y'all, I want to take a nap, but I got responsibilities, you know, and so I think that reading a story similar to what I'm going through now will just feel potentially like a hug, which is always nice. Who doesn't like a good hug every once in a while? 2 more. Strong Female Care character, why can't I say this? Strong Female Character by Fern Brady. This is a memoir about a 20-something woman, I think, who was diagnosed super late with autism, despite kind of knowing and feeling like she might have autism her whole life, but constantly being told she doesn't look autistic, she doesn't seem autistic, she's fine. Just the sort of gaslighting of something that she feels within herself is very true. And her life and how she had to navigate that and how she was constantly masking that all of the time. And I picked this up because I have bipolar disorder and obsessive compulsive disorder, and while I do kind of in my heart believe that those are the right diagnoses, there's a small part of me that wonders if potentially I am actually just autistic, because most women who are diagnosed bipolar and OCD, it's actually a misdiagnosis, because the symptoms of autism in women is completely different from the symptoms in autism in men most often. But the thing is that I can't tell if this is just, I don't know if this is a bad thing or not, but in the wake of all of this stuff on social media about, mental health and mental disorders and self-diagnoses and XYZ, there's just such a wealth of knowledge around that I can't tell if I'm relating to 2 or 3 things that autistic people do. And so I'm convincing myself that I might have autism, or if I'm flooded with such an influx of autism things, so then I'm like, well, maybe that means I'm autistic, or maybe I'm being flooded with autism things because I'm autistic. So I don't know. I can't tell if this is just the algorithms at work or if it is really something that I might have. And so I think that this is going to help. Obviously, one person's autistic experience is one person's autistic experience, but I need some nice concrete things to figure out if I relate to or not, and then I will explore the idea of me being autistic a little bit further. So I picked this up because I hope this helps. I need it to help. I've been asking myself this for months and I don't know the answer. The last book on the list, I don't even know if this is a self-help or not. It's a manifesto. I think it's actually more of a feminist literary theory or feminist theory kind of book than it is more of a self-help book. But I think it's going to help me. So this is called The 7 Necessary Sins for Women and Girls by Mona Eltaoui, I think is how you pronounce her name. I'm not sure. I'm sorry. This is described as kind of like a feminist manifesto rallying cry type of thing that goes through I think the 7 deadly sins, or just different ideas and things that women have been taught about being silent and enduring, and kind of just the silent spoken roles of being a woman in American society, if that makes sense. If you're a woman, I think you might understand what I'm trying to convey, but it explores that and teaches us basically about how we should not be silent, not endure, speak up for ourselves, do the things that we need to do, walk through the world with all the confidence of a mediocre white man. That kind of vibe is in this book, and I think it's going to be perfect for me. I picked it up because I am angry. Just as a woman going through America, seeing the discrimination that I see, facing the discrimination that I face, dealing with the constant oppression of just being here, this sort of silent expectation to just endure everything and just take it with a smile and be quiet and be silent. Fuck that. I'm so over that. I'm so angry about all of it. Screw everybody. That's just how I feel about all of it. And I do it to myself. I have so much internalized misogyny that I say it to myself. I do it to myself. I tell myself to shut up, to sit down, to be quiet, to take up less space, to do less things. And I'm so tired of that constant internalized patriarchy in my little brain. I don't want it anymore. And so I'm hoping that this book will help me start not thinking that way. Hopefully. Are you guys? Thanks for this. Thanks for being here with me. Thanks for coming on this journey with me. Thanks for watching me cry and being nice about it. Please be nice about it. I was not expecting this video to be what it ended up being, and I hope it's helpful. I hope at the very least you found some book recs that might be good for you. I do plan on making a vlog of me reading some of these. I'm going to go through them slowly, obviously, because I want to really savor them. But hopefully that'll be out sometime in the future. If you had a good time here, like the video, subscribe if you want. That would be nice. Thank you. All right, you guys, I'll see you somewhere else on the internet. I wish you all the love and the light and the happiness in the world, and I hope that you are doing wonderful. See you around. Bye.